Hello, my dear friends. Today I want to talk about a paro personality. What's a paro personality? A paro personality is a person who refuses to see the truth. And even though God heaps upon the person all sorts of problems and sorrows and illness and difficulties, the person tenaciously holds on to their perceptions of reality, to their hashkafos, to their prior beliefs. And we all have some of paro personality within ourselves. The best example to me of Paro, how he thinks and how he conducts his life, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu but the second mark is the mark of Tzardeya, of the frogs. And there are frogs all over, they're jumping out of the ovens and in the beds, and wherever they go, there's frogs, and the food, and the pots. Terrible. Paro can't stand it anymore. He cries uncle. He says to Moshe, go leave Mitzrayim. Just get rid of the frogs. Pray to your God to take away the frogs. So Moshe says, okay, when do you want me to daven? They should go away. He says, tomorrow. So Moshe davens. Tomorrow they die. They're all over Mitzrayim. All of a sudden they die, but they don't disappear. They die. And the Chumash says that the Egyptians made piles of them, and by Tivah shards, the land, it stunk in Mitzrayim because Tivah shards, it stunk from the smell, the putrid smell of the dead frogs. Nonetheless, Voeirah Paro ki ha'yisar, Paro saw that things were easier. It means that the plague didn't go completely away. The frogs were still there. The stench was horrible, and he should have remembered what he endured just before. But instead, as soon as Paro saw, things are a little bit better, then he went back to his old way of thinking. And we all have somewhat of a Paro personality within ourselves. I'll give you an example. The person, you wake up one morning and you have a juicy piece of lashon hara that you want to share with your neighbor. So you walk outside and you trip on the step and you fall down and you bang your foot and it's hard for you to walk. So you say, I think God's sending me a message. I better not tell over this piece of lashon hara. Okay? So then you go home and you take some Advil and you wait a few hours, and then you know what? Your foot feels better. He says, maybe it was just an accident. And then you go and you go across the street and you tell the lashon hara over to your friend. That's human nature. That when things are tough, then we say, God's sending me a message. But then Voeirah Paro ki ha'yisar harvacha. Even if it didn't go away completely, even if I still have a pain in my foot, I'm limping, but it's bearable. Voeirah Paro ki ha'yisar. Paro saw, it's not so terrible as it was before. I could live with it. And then Paro goes back to his old ways. And it happens to us all the time that God constantly is trying to encourage us and move us in certain directions. And he's encouraging us and prodding us. And so sometimes we get the message, but then as soon as things ease up, then we say, maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe God really doesn't care if I say lashon hara, or whatever the excuse that floats around in our heads. I think it's very it's fascinating. Moshe said to Paro, when do you want the frogs to go away? So he says, l'machar, tomorrow. So the Even Ezra, one of the classical commentaries, quotes Shmuel ben Chafni, who was from the Gaonic period, he lived over 1,000 years ago. He asked, why did Paro say l'machar, tomorrow? If a person is in pain, they want it to go away ASAP, immediately. Why in the world? Paro, he couldn't stand it anymore. Why would he tell Moshe, okay, have the frogs disappear tomorrow? So Shmuel ben Chafni, the Even Ezra quotes Shmuel ben Chafni, says that Paro thought maybe Moshe was an astrologist, and maybe because of the position of the constellations, that's why the frogs came. Even though Moshe had predicted it in advance, but no, maybe he knew that it was going to happen because of the astrological insight that he had. So the Paro thought, this is what the Rav Shmuel says. Paro thought maybe Moshe knows that it's going to go away today. And that's why he says to me, Moshe, when should I daven for you? Moshe was hoping that I would say right away. Maybe he knew that it was gonna. So therefore, he says, I'm gonna test Moshe. I'll tell him tomorrow. Let's see if it happens tomorrow. And indeed, that's what happened tomorrow. But nonetheless, Paro still holds on to his old ways. So you see the mentality of a person. Moshe predicted the Makkah. And this is not the first Makkah. This is already the second Makkah. And the Paro, he can't stand it. But he's willing to endure another day of suffering because maybe it'll show that it happened just by accident. Maybe it had to do with the constellations and not that God was trying to send him a message. I have another thought why Paro said L'mocher, and that is because Paro, why he said, they got to go away tomorrow, because Paro, it's like a wrestling match, and God was forcing the issue, and Paro was losing the wrestling match. He can't stand it. But he said, you know what, I'll try to endure another day before I give in, before I cry uncle, before I say, okay, Hashem, you were right. And if he tells Moshe, one more day, because it's like, not because necessarily he thought that something was going to change, but he thought, let me hold on as long as I can to my own beliefs, because he the tremendous resistance to change. He was holding on by a thread, the resistance to changing the way he's thinking. And that's how we are as well. We hold on by a thread. One of the things that we learn from Paro is that Hashem persists, and that human stubbornness doesn't do any good. Paro, he has got 10 chances, and Paro says, I'll let them go. And then Paro, and things were easier. And Paro says, okay, give me another chance, and another chance, another chance. There's a limit to how many chances HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives a person. Paro used up his chances after 10 times. So let us not be like Paro and use up the chances. If things are difficult and we dive into Hashem, we turn to Hashem, he said, I'll do, it'll be different. Things will change. Don't use up your chances. So one time, a second time, a third time, I have to tell you the old joke. It's so old, you heard it already from me so many times. But there was a fellow who was looking for a parking spot in Manhattan. He had an important meeting. He turns to God. He says, God, if you only let me find this spot this time, I'll come to davening every day and I'll start learning Daf Yomi and I'll give $100,000 a year to tzedakah, etc., etc. And then, as he was driving around and talking to Hashem, all of a sudden a spot opens up. He says, never mind, God, I found the spot. So that's how we are. Never mind, God. But God persists, and things, especially as we get older, you got a pain here and a pain there and a pain here, and God keeps on reminding us, and we keep on saying, it got a little bit better. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe it's okay if I speak the Lashon Hara. Maybe God doesn't mind this time. Maybe there's a mitzvah for me to tell the Lashon Hara. Maybe all the kind of excuses that people come up with. But the lesson from Paro is, don't be a Paro. Don't be a big wise guy. Don't hang on. Don't say L'mocher over and over again, because eventually God comes down heavy on Paro, and that's the end of the game. So, Mirz Hashem, we should never come to that point. We all have areas where we could use some improvement, and when God sends us messages and prods us along, don't keep on saying, okay, give me one more chance, I'll try, and then when we try, we decide, you know what, maybe I don't need to change. There's a limit to God's patience, so to speak. If a person feels that Hashem is sending them a message, the time to act is not L'mocher. Don't say, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll change later on, give me another week or two and I'll see how things are. It's right now, immediately, make the change. And in that way, we'll be able to live meaningful lives according to the wishes of the Voeirah Shalom.